Hello, and welcome to our podcast. Today we will be reviewing and talking about the award-winning novel by Paula Hawkins, A Girl on the Train, which has also been made into a film recently.
Yes, first Holly will start off by giving a summary about the author.
Thanks, Kate. Paula Hawkins is a 44-year-old British woman with an interesting background. She actually grew up in Africa, specifically Zimbabwe. She attended the Arundel School in Zimbabwe to complete what Americans would call an undergrad. She then moved back to London and studied at Collingham College for a writing and journalism-based degree. Later, she studied economics, politics, and philosophy at Oxford. She worked for various newspaper companies before starting her own career. Correspondingly, she wrote multiple financial advice books before this bestseller.
That brings up a great new topic here. What genre would you classify this as? I personally would classify this as a mystery of sorts.
Yeah, I would agree due to the aspects of crime, drug and alcohol abuse, as well as domestic violence. However, the book has a romantic undertone as well.
Good point. The book is a bit scandalous at some times, but other than that, the characters and their lovers seem to rotate back and forth throughout the book.
Yes.
Now, let's dive into a summary. No spoilers ahead, though.
Right. First, I'll talk a bit about the setup and organizational aspect of this novel. Rather than having chapters per se, you basically have dialogue from each of the three main characters, Rachel, Anna, and Megan. I would call it more of a diary entry. What do you think, Kate?
That sounds about right. I do agree with that statement, though. They do include a lot of dates and topics, but sometimes that's hard to read.
I personally find this quite difficult to follow. It's a 343-page book, and to reference a specific event, you can't say, this happened in Chapter 8. You'd have to say, this happened on July 12, 2014, for Anna.
Right, I agree. It is a bit confusing.
I don't think it takes away from the storyline, do you?
No, not too much.
Now to the story. The book starts off with a heartbroken, drunk girl named Rachel, who's depressed because of her ex-husband Tom's affair. Then there's Anna, the secret lover. Then there's Megan, who's the babysitter, and her husband Scott. You can probably see the pattern here.
Yeah, not a love triangle, but a love rectangle.
Then Megan goes missing, eventually found dead. Don't worry, it's the investigation that's the bulk of the story. Long story short, Rachel is crazy and basically stalks Anna, Tom, and their adorable daughter Evie. The blame is put on her originally since she's involved in substance abuse and is a believed psychopath by the community, basically. This is where the mystery begins.
You can't even fathom the number of plot twists in this book. Everyone really is a suspect.
Yeah, I was so shocked with the end result. The book really pulls you in. I had to force myself to stop reading at times and savor the literature.
Yeah, I agree.
Now Kate will give some analysis.
Thanks, Holly. Now we dive deep into the literary analysis stuff. I'll be talking about the title of the book and figurative language. Another thing I forgot to mention is I'll be also going more in depth about how the chapters were written during this analysis. Break everything down, even though the two women have never met each other, they still have ties and connections to one another, mysterious connections, in that if you don't read the whole book, you wouldn't understand the whole mystery and the whole plot that Paula Hawkins writes this whole novel out to be. For myself personally, I love reading mystery novels. I've loved them growing up. As a kid, I would read Nancy Drew, all that fun stuff. Comparing those to the book The Girl on the Train, it's safe to say that they all have one thing in common, which is the use of figurative language. And I know that not the same author wrote all those books, but they all seem to have inquired some type of figurative language. And to me, I feel like the novel wouldn't be the same without the figurative language. For example, personification, similes, metaphors, all that stuff is used constantly throughout this book. Just in case Holly didn't mention this during her plot summary analysis, each chapter in this novel is written by a certain character's point of view. Paula Hawkins wrote the novel to be page-turning almost. You have to know everyone's side of the story. It's like a real-life investigation, which is pretty cool to me. Going off topic from figurative language, I think that literary aspect is really cool, and I feel like I wish more novels were written like that. I love reading different point of views and different sides of the story. But going back on figurative language, with each chapter is a different type of person. So figurative language is used to refer, for example, to main character Rachel has alcoholism. And so figurative language plays a major role in describing her alcoholism instead of just coming out and saying straightforward that she has alcoholism. Readers are picked up on hints after hints about this. Another interesting point to bring up is the title of the book. The title being The Girl on the Train. The girl is referring to Rachel, who sits on the train every morning and watches the house. I think it's a very interesting point, and I think it ties the whole story together.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting point, Kate. It basically proves that the theme of this novel is that no one can be trusted, or everyone is not as they seem. Like Kate said, there's literally a simile or a metaphor or another type of figurative language on each page.
And that's a wrap. That's everything me and Holly have learned while reading the novel A Girl on the Train. Now here are some reasons why you should read the novel.
The book is really page turning. You want to keep reading. It also gives a good insight into the criminal world and what it would really be like. It shows you what a real investigation would be like.
Yeah, I agree. However, it is pretty exaggerated. While reading the novel A Girl on the Train, Holly and I both learned so much about literary elements and other aspects. We both really enjoyed but also found really confusing the different chapters and how they were broken down. It is a real game changer when you think about it. We both really enjoyed reading this novel. Me and Holly both found that this novel is a great read, and we hope that many of you will also consider reading this novel. Hopefully y'all will consider reading this novel just like me and Holly did. It was a great rec read, and we both really enjoyed reading the novel.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Like Kate said, I hope you consider reading this book and other novels by author Paula Hawkins. This is Holly,
And Kate.
signing off.